Good morning and welcome to the AlabamaWorks webinar series, a monthly webinar designed to provide information and speakers related to the workforce in Alabama. Past webinars are available on the AlabamaWorks website at alabamaworks.com. And now your host, Nick Moore, Director of the Governor's Office of Education and Workforce Transformation.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the March Alabama Workforce Council webinar. As you can see, I am filling in for Chairman McCartney today, who is on his way back from what was a disappointing afternoon for him and March Madness. The Auburn Tigers came up a little bit short, but it was a good game nevertheless. So we wish him traveling grace on his way back. We've got an action-packed lineup today, so we're going to go ahead and get right into it. We're joined today by Dr. Katie Caves with the Center of the Economics and Management of Education and Training System, or CIMMETS as we call it, and we were involved with that, which is a international partnership based in Switzerland that was helping us get more involved with understanding how other countries are doing work-based learning. We're also going to be joined by Mr. Clay McInnes, who serves on the Montgomery City Council, but he's here today to talk to us about his role as the Executive Director of the Alabama Bridge Contractors Association, as a key business partner with the Workforce Council. And Mr. Earl Johnson is going to be joining us to talk about Alabama Ahex and the partnership that he's doing to make sure we're expanding access to quality health care in the state of Alabama. Mr. Chris Crumley, who is the director of IDEA, or the Institute for Digital Enterprise Advancement. And we recently worked on a grant with him, and he's doing a lot of other great things in the state. He's going to join us. And then we're going to be joined also by a really exciting initiative called the Red Tail Scholarship Fund. We're going to be joined by their board director, Miss Lori Rasmussen, and board member, Miss Jewel Pitts. And we've met recently with or I should say General Sparrow, and beginning to talk with them about some great ways we can expand this initiative and just the connection to Alabama's deep history in regard to the Red Tail Squadron from World War II and expanding opportunity for students and aviation careers today. And then we're going to also hear from Secretary Barbara Cooper of the Alabama Department of Early Childhood Education about a partnership that she's been doing with Governor Ivey over the last 4 years called the Alabama Campaign for Grade Level Reading. It's going to discuss ways that we are expanding access to things that kids need outside the classroom to make sure that they're able to read while they're in the classroom. Then I'm going to close this out, if we've got time, with a labor force update. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over at this time to Dr. Caves.
Thank you so much. Let me quickly share my screen. There we go. Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be here, especially in Alabama, because Alabama has a lot of the coolest things going on that I'm aware of in the US. We work with a number of states and different countries around the world, and really Alabama is one of the most exciting places. So very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I've only got 10 minutes, so I'm quickly going to talk about the work that the team from Alabama did at the CIMMETS Institute this year. And then I'm also just going to highlight some of the evidence for how important vocational and professional skills at the medium and higher levels are for education systems in general and for employment as well. So this year, Alabama joined teams from all over the US and also all over the world in our annual institute. And the Alabama team really represented your state extremely well. They worked really hard. They participated in a very in-depth program. We put them through almost a master's degree worth of course content, and they have to do this alongside their regular jobs. And the most important takeaways are that the best education systems in the world and the education systems that have improved the most and that have the outcomes we all want, they're not that way because of magical historical things. You know, Switzerland is known for its apprenticeship system, and it has nothing to do with guilds. And that's very important to understand, because it gives us, especially, obviously you can hear in my voice that I'm American, it gives us hope, and it tells us that we can improve as well. And understanding why and how these systems came to be is really important for people who are trying to make changes in their own systems. It's never about copying and pasting, but there's so much that we can learn about small changes and reacting to evidence and understanding the evidence. And the example that I'm going to give is, so on the left and right, I have two pictures of the Swiss education system. And this is highly sort of stylized, so it could apply to almost any system. On the left side, we have the academic pathway that we're all familiar with. You know, we start in high school and then we go to get a bachelor's, master's, PhD. Almost every country in the world has this pathway available. There's also a middle pathway of applied degrees and a right-hand side pathway of vocational and professional qualifications. And the important thing is that everything can go all the way up to the top level. We all know that there's extremely high level professional skills that have nothing to do with a PhD, and also that a PhD isn't necessarily the right qualification to do something really practical. For example, I am useless on a construction site or when it comes to anything with engineering. I'm an economist, and that's great in academia, and I can write a research paper and do a lot of really fancy math, but that is not useful at all in a setting where someone needs to actually build something, for example. And about 50, 60 years ago, the United States and a lot of other countries in the world, including Switzerland, had systems where there was a vocational option in high school, and the university pathway was really well developed, but this sort of top right half of the system was missing. And we didn't have a formal way for people to get the qualifications and skills that are needed for them to succeed in the labor market, and also for employers to find all the skills they need. Especially today, these really high level professional and applied skills are super important, and they're super employable as well. And the other big consequence this had is that it made vocational education and apprenticeship, it made those programs into dead ends. And so when we were looking at how young people are doing after they've participated in programs like that, we're seeing that they're not able to succeed. They have a harder time getting more years of education. They have a harder time getting more years of training and more qualifications. And we know that the more years of education you have, the higher your employment and salary and all those things are. So it's really important that people be able to have access to those programs. And in the United States, we looked at this problem, especially in light of our history with racism and the way that those programs were enacted. And the solution seemed to be that we should get rid of vocational options. And even today in the US, when I say the word vocational, I'm always a little nervous because it's kind of a dirty word in a lot of contexts. But the skills are still extremely important. We need people with occupational skills at low, medium, and very high levels. And so what happened in other countries, like for example, Switzerland, is they started building up and creating pathways upward that lead to better employment, better salaries, better lives for people who start in the vocational pathway. And over time, you can see in the 90s and then again in the early 2000s, they articulated the system even more so that you can start anywhere and end anywhere in the system. I always, for Americans especially, I always say the least equitable education system possible, and one that provides the least skills and doesn't give employers or individuals the skills they need, is one where there's only one pathway to success. Especially if that pathway is expensive or that pathway only works for one group of people. We want to have as many paths upward as possible. And we want all of those pathways to be connected so that you can change your mind at any point. So this is what we want to see in education systems, modern education systems, and things that offer a lot of options to our young people. It's also why Alabama is so exciting, because the work that Nick and his team are doing around recognizing and understanding the skills and competencies that go into this, the whole thing, but also this sort of top right vocational, professional, applied area, that's going to enable people to get their skills recognized. And it's going to enable them to progress through the education system, to get hired for having those skills. It's a really exciting project. I have just one more piece of evidence, because I'm aware I don't want to go over time. This chart shows the employment rates for the unemployment rates by different levels of education qualifications. And it's using Switzerland because if we're comparing in a system where this is a dead end, then we're comparing apples to oranges. We always want to compare people at the same level of education. So on this chart, it's kind of counterintuitive because it's unemployment. So you want to be as low as possible. So short bars are good, tall bars are bad. And this line here represents the normal level of unemployment, the sort of overall average. If you only have compulsory education, so only up to 10th grade, you have almost twice the chances of being unemployed. So this is why it's so important. Everyone here knows this. We want to help young people succeed, get that high school diploma or equivalent, get something to move up into the world. But then if we look here, these are all of the high school level qualifications available in Switzerland. And there's three types. There's the apprenticeship, there's a school-based vocational option. So it's the same content as the apprenticeship, but all done in school. And then there's academic high school. And if you finish with just these qualifications, academic high school is the worst case scenario because you don't have the skills and competencies and occupational skills and work experience that you have in the apprenticeship model. Same thing if we look just at the vocational options, school-based vocational education and training, and this is true in every country in the world, school-based vocational education is not as good. It doesn't provide the real world experience. This is with the same curricula. So if you're in a certain occupation, you get the same curriculum, it's just delivered differently. The apprenticeship model, you're actually better off than the average Swiss worker if you graduate with just an apprenticeship, just the high school level apprenticeship, because you already have work experience. You have a qualification that lets you proceed in the education system and that is valuable on the labor market. If we look here at the tertiary qualifications, the best case scenario is someone who did professional education and training. So those higher levels of vocational and professional skills, those are the people that are the least unemployed, they're earning the most, they have the lowest risk of really low wages, that sort of thing. People who get a bachelor's or master's degree from a University of Applied Sciences, they're also doing really, really well. And the people who go to research universities like where I am, or what we think of as like a traditional university, they're a little better off than the average, but not always. Part of that, the reason for that is because you can major in philosophy, of course. But even when we control for the type of occupation, what matters is that you have this work experience and these super relevant skills and stuff. So again, the work that's happening in Alabama is super exciting because it allows for the recognition of very high level and mid-level professional skills. And that is going to be a way that Alabama can start to recognize and appreciate and employ the skills of all of its workers and all of its people, and also enable them to progress and gain further skills. So I am running out of time, so I will pass on to the next person.
No, you were right on time and appreciate that so much, Dr. Caves. And thank you for your partnership and all of the wonderful resources you brought to bear for us. I'd like to now turn it over to Mr. McInnes.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. And thank you, Dr. Caves. This is really a great opportunity to leverage off of everything that you said. My name is Clay McInnes. I represent the Alabama Bridge Contractors Association, as well as our family firm, McInnes Construction. We're also bridge builders and have been building bridges in the state of Alabama for over 50 years. My grandfather started building bridges for the Alabama Department of Transportation. He started that company in 1971. So a little bit about our story, but this is an industry-wide conversation. We built over 500 bridges in the state of Alabama that we drive over every single day. Those bridges that we've built theoretically have a carload of 35 million annual crossings every single year. So, you know, that's a lot. And so intentionality and thought and engineering, and these bridges that my grandfather built and then my dad has built, and then my dad is now replacing bridges that he built back in the early 70s currently. But out of the almost 6,000 Alabama state bridges, 43% of those bridges are older than 55 years old. So describing the need with this infrastructure package coming especially, but specifically the need to develop our workforce has become increasingly more difficult. And to leverage off of what Dr. Cave said, which a great presentation, is our company and our whole industry, you know, pretty much is based on that apprenticeship model. And so a good apprenticeship model is really time, investing time, intentionality, and relationship, and really getting that workforce as young and as malleable as possible and growing them within our industry. So for example, in our family firm, every single superintendent, boss in the field currently that we have not only did not finish college, started with an apprenticeship program with our company and is now his boss. And even a current owner current owner of our company did not complete college and started as an apprenticeship in the field as a welder, carpenter, and now he's the COO of our company. So that really hits home in our industry in a lot of ways. And the biggest the need is the skilled labor shortage, as we know, and generational knowledge is a huge key component to that. So what you have in the bridge industry, construction industry, you have a lot of specific knowledge-based approaches in the field, unlike manufacturing, where, you know, if you're a welder and you have a welder certificate, you kind of show up and you go to a station and do the same thing over and over again. What we're looking for is really range and mobility of skill sets and knowledge. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for honest, able, reliable, and helpful people. And so I would say 80 to 90% of the workforce that we're looking to develop really isn't coming to the table with a ton of certificates yet. And I'll get to that in a second. We're looking for literally people with range that are willing to learn, that are open to learning, they're open to working hard and outside, but they're honest, able, reliable, and helpful. And those four key components really build trust between the employer and the employee, but also through the apprenticeship program. So third, I will talk to you about the CICT grant program that our family firm has received, and we are also promoting it throughout the industry, all the other 6 bridge builders in the state that we currently have in the state. And so this summer, May 1st, our family firm, we're going to roll out our own heavy highway academy. And this is thanks to the CICT grant program and the legislation back in 2015, I believe, that was passed, that a couple of dollars for the building permits go into this pool to allow companies like ourselves and others in the construction trade to develop workforce training programs within their company that are really apprenticeship programs. And not only are we attracted by it, we're really excited about the potential. And so what does that look like? That looks like $14 per hour for 18 to 20-year-olds. You could really be of any age, but it's a 13-week program. And we will literally pay someone coming out of high school with little or no welding experience, carpenter experience, but obviously the more experience within the high school level is very helpful. But we will pay them to complete that training and training on a heavy highway academy level, so that they will be certified, whether it's our company or any other company in the state or in other states. They can go out to the workforce and be fully trained. We would hope that they would stay with us, and then that's the goal. But at the very least, we like to think of ourselves as the Chick-fil-A of bridge builders, that if someone went through our apprenticeship program and left to go to another company or another region or another state, that they would have that brand and then that seal of excellence that we try to accomplish each and every day within our company. So I think the solution to leverage on, you don't have to, Dr. Case, but if you could pull up the Swiss model for apprenticeship, that's exactly what we're going for. We're going for intentionality and relationship and building apprenticeships, because that is the only way that we foresee ourselves getting in and out of this rut or challenge in the workforce that we have. And so we've been going to community colleges, speaking to them. That's been an incredible pipeline. But we're also going to job fairs, to high schools, and we're recruiting there. And we've seen some success. And really, it's about building those relationships and those friendships on the high school level and below, and getting them engaged in the industry and really communicating and telling our story of what our industry is and what our industry isn't, as far as stigma. And going back onto the generational challenges, I mean, we have 18, 19, 20-year-olds that are of a different generation in the field primarily. And we also have people that are 70-year-old plus in the field that have seen it all. And so passing down that knowledge is an incredible, incredible thing that we have to preserve for our industry's sake, because there's such a vacuum in between. Yeah, of course we have ages in between, but there's so much institutional knowledge of just being on a job and experiencing life and experiencing mistakes that you cannot teach in a classroom. And I just can't stress that enough. And we appreciate the state and ABC and the Craft Academy and all the partnerships that we've been able to create with the Alabama Bridge Contractors Association to promote the CICT grant program. And we hope that program can be expanded and that more programs like that can develop within the state, because that's the only way we will be able to build the bridges that we need to build so that the state can grow and move forward.
Well, thank you, sir, and appreciate your partnership and all you're doing to help increase our labor force participation rate and make sure that people got access to in-demand jobs. And now I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Earl Johnson with Alabama Ahex. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Nick. Good morning, everyone. Let me share my screen here. Okay, there we go. Is everyone able to see the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, sir.
All right, perfect, perfect. So today I'm here to discuss the Alabama Area Health Education Center. Here we have our team from the state office. We have Dr. Michael Faircloth as the program director. We have Dr. Rebecca Ramey as the Ahex program associate director. And you have myself, Earl Johnson, as the program manager here at the state office. One of the great things about the Area Health Education Center has to be our structure. Our organization reaches all 67 counties in the state, and we're able to do this by having 5 regional offices across the state. And each one of those offices are responsible for between 13 to 15 counties across the entire state. So a little bit about Ahex. Ahex was established in 1971 as a response to a study held by the Carnegie Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching. And that study realized that there was an issue with the distribution of healthcare in our rural and underserved communities. And out of that need, they created the Area Health Education Center to help increase the availability of healthcare in our rural and underserved communities. So Ahex provides access to resources in education, training, and physician placement. Ahex in the past has done a number of health education programs to raise awareness about relevant health issues in the community. More recently, we have formed a team to respond to the COVID-19 outbreak, as well as other outbreaks in the past. We have also provided HPV education as well, just to give you an example of some of the education that we provide here at the Ahex. We also provide training. We have what's called the Ahex Scholars, which I'll talk about in more detail later. Then we also have the Health Professional Academy program for our 9th through 12th grade students. And then we also help to facilitate clinical rotations for our students who are interested in working in rural and underserved communities. We work closely with our partners. Our partners are our most important piece. We have partners that range from nonprofit organizations to community colleges to four-year academic institutes. And also, we create opportunities to partner with our community members. So with our regional offices, they have coordinators there that work very closely with local administration as well as community members to establish what needs that community has and create programs that fit those needs. So providing access. So first, to go back to what I mentioned earlier about working with our local universities and community colleges and training programs. So we've worked closely with them in the past to create a number of different programs that help our targeted communities. An example would be when I was working at the West Alabama office there in Greensboro, Alabama, we partnered with University of West Alabama, which is a local community college, to provide summer camp and provide exposure opportunities for high school students in our area. And so we've done multiple things like this where we partner with community colleges, we partner with nonprofit organizations to create a funnel to funnel resources into our target community. We connect students to mentors and preceptors. So with our high school students, those students who participate in our programs, they have the opportunity to speak with practicing professionals. They have the opportunity to be introduced to practicing professionals. And then also on the clinical side of things, Ahex is able to find those needed clinical rotations for our health, all of our health students. So a PA who's looking to do a rural rotation in, say, your Greensboro, Alabama, or a Wilcox, Alabama, we can provide them with travel reimbursement for their travels back and forth, or we can provide those students with housing assistance. And not only that, we can help those students by finding them those opportunities in our rural and underserved communities. We also create training and learning opportunities. So with the Ahex Scholars program, that program is designed for those students who are interested in health careers on a graduate level, and it's interdisciplinary. So we have students that range from social work to nursing, students who are interested in pursuing psychology degrees, all working together so that they can gain an understanding of working in rural Alabama. As a part of the program, we provide the students with 40 hours of clinical training, as well as 40 hours of didactic education to help students better understand what it means to work in a rural community and contribute to that community. We also use community health workers. Community health workers serve as advocates for their community. Oftentimes there are individuals from that community that we recruit to help with our mission. Currently, there's not uniform education for community health workers, and this is actually one of the things that we're working on as we move forward to create a standardized curriculum that allows us to train individuals from the community so that they may be able to go back and help with not only health education, but implementing a number of programs that we have here at the Ahex. Also, we use real data to determine the need and institute care models that work. So we're always looking to use the best practice If we had to come up with a word to describe AHEC, it would be described as living and breathing, just because we're always looking for the best practice and we're always making changes to our programming to accommodate our target audience better. So working together, we often build upon the existing relationships. So as AHEC has been around in Alabama for about 7 years now, and during that time, we have established a lot of relationships with not only those nonprofit organizations, but colleges in our area. And from that, we've been able to partner to provide a number of programs that help with our overall mission. We're also always looking for better ways that we can improve and ways that we can extend our offerings here at the AHEC. And we're always looking for a diversity in the type of partners that we're looking to partner with to provide a wider range of resources to our students. Yeah, so going back to our AHEC scholars and other programs that we have, those programs were created after having a great understanding of the needs of our community. We always try to make our programming attractive to those current students and students who are looking to participate in the program. So we're always trying to survey and do focus groups with those students who are participating in programs to see what changes they would like to see made to the program, as well as improvements. At the state office, we also work closely with state and a local legislator to improve policy and effect change. So one of our programs that I would like to discuss is our Health Professions Academy. So with Health Professions Academy, this program is designed for 9th through 12th graders who are interested in health careers. And for those students, we provide them with a year-long competitive enrichment program that introduces them to a number of resources that are outside of their local high school to help facilitate their process as they transfer from high school students to college level students to pursuing their health professions degree. So we basically target those students who are disadvantaged minority students from underserved and rural communities. And we provide them with a number of resources that I mentioned later in the presentation. So as a part of Health Professions Academy, we help students to improve their standardized test scores. One reason that we focus a lot on standardized test scores because we discovered that there was an issue whereas the first barrier for students wanting to pursue a career in healthcare was the fact that they didn't have the standardized test scores high enough to enroll, the minimum requirement to enroll in their health professions program. So as a part of our program, we work with students to provide them with free ACT prep and free ACT waivers to help them to overcome that barrier. We also provide students with individualized academic and professional support. So we're able to talk with the student, get an understanding of what it is this student wants to do with their career and give them a list of resources. Even if the resources are not provided by AHEC, we provide them with a list of resources that they can use and take advantage of to help them as they matriculate down the pipeline. We also expose students to a network of healthcare providers. So oftentimes in our rural communities, a lot of students have interest in healthcare, but never had the opportunity to actually sit down and talk with a practicing healthcare professional to get an understanding of exactly what it is they do. What are some of the things that they need to focus on to ensure that they're successful in the field? Or just basically some information about what it means to be a student in a rural community and what you need to do in order to be successful coming from that background. We also focus on increasing students' financial literacy. Because one thing we have realized is that a lot of our health profession students fall off of the pipeline due to financial difficulties when they're in their college years. So we're working with students in high school to increase their financial literacy so they can make better financial decisions. And as I mentioned before, we provide a lot of information about the different health careers that are out there, not just focusing on the primary care fields, but also allied health. We're basically wanting students to understand, okay, if you're not interested in becoming a doctor or becoming a nurse practitioner, that's fine, because there are several other fields that fall under health that you got that they may be able to find an interest for and may be a better fit for that student. So we're very focused on introducing students to the entire scope of health careers and not just focusing on primary care. So as I mentioned before, students receive free ACT prep, free ACT waivers, free dual enrollment, free mentoring and tutoring. And then we also provide students with free field days. And when I say the field days, it's more like a summer camp, a one-day summer camp, but we do this each month during the school year so that students have the opportunity to work together in groups. So some of the barriers that are addressed through the Health Professions Academy program, students face, our rural and underserved students face a number of financial barriers as they transition. One being scholarship opportunities. How are they going to pay for college? Or if they are able to get into college instead of a payment plan, how are they going to have the finances to maintain while they're at school? So we encourage students to take advantage of our cost-effective education model, which we show students a pathway of resources that they can use as they transition. Examples being while in high school, they can use dual enrollment credit to receive both credit in high school as well as receive credit towards their college education. And also that helps in our rural schools because we have an issue where we have a shortage of teachers there at the school. So as we implement the program, we've seen that we were able to take some of those students out of the live classroom and place them in these dual enrollment classes to kind of free up some space there at the school for other students in those classrooms. So HPA has been great for addressing teacher shortages in our rural and underserved schools. Also, the lack of educational resources and opportunities. So a lot of these programs that we provide are offered at some of your larger schools, but where you have smaller schools in your rural communities who cannot afford to provide these type of resources or opportunities, this is where HPA shines because we're able to come in and provide these students with these resources free of cost to the student. And we handle everything. We facilitate the entire process. So students don't have to worry about transportation costs, application fees. If there's an event that's created as a part of HPA, we facilitate the entire process at zero cost to the student. As I mentioned before, we increase these students' financial literacy and awareness. We increase ACT scores. And then we also have an issue with competing certifications. So prior to Health Professions Academy, we were losing a lot of students to tech programs where students were able to actually graduate from high school with this certification and ready to go directly into the workforce, which is great. It's a great plan. It's just that they beat healthcare to the table. So at this time, we're trying to bridge the gap and provide healthcare certifications to our students to help them go directly into the workforce and also give them a better means of supporting themselves while in college, while gaining a very important experience in the primary care setting.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
We have one more. And on projected improvements. So we're looking for partners as we look to provide certifications to our high school students. And also, this is currently a pilot program that's been ran in West Alabama for about 3 years now. We average about 75 kids each year. And it's a model that we feel that can be replicated across the state. And so right now we're working to expand the program to offer it across the entire state.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that very much. And y'all are doing some extremely impactful work, and healthcare is one of our top 5 industry sectors, and the opportunities to enter into those pathways, and particularly the support you're providing as people are able to persist in those pathways, is very important. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to share your information out with the participants here to see if we can create some partnerships. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Rasmussen and Pitts, who are members of the Red Tails Scholarship Fund Board.
Okay, perfect. All right, everyone, stand by one as I pull up my slides. Let's see if they work. Okay, everybody see them okay? Thumbs up? Okay, great. Well, good morning. My name is Lori Rasmussen. I am the Executive Director for the Red Tail Scholarship Foundation. I also have with me today Ms. Jewel Pitts, who is one of the members of our Board of Directors. Ms. Pitts comes to us with an extensive background as a 38-year veteran working for the Alabama Department of Mental Health. And she'll address the crowd here just in a few minutes after I'm done speaking. So I'm a retired Air Force officer, and I came into our program about maybe 6 weeks ago. And I had the privilege of working with Brigadier General retired William Sparrow and Lieutenant Colonel Richard Peace, who are the founders of this amazing organization. Both General Sparrow and Lieutenant Colonel Peace are F-16 fighter pilots with the Alabama Air National Guard. And I myself am a retired Air Force pilot. So we connected both from an operational side and then a training side, just as our Air Force paths continued. So our scholarship foundation is really unique. It started with a conversation between General Sparrow and Colonel Peace in addressing some of the racial inequities and honestly asking the question, where are all the Black pilots? We'll get into, just very similar to the other speakers, addressing, the manning shortages in construction industry as well as in the healthcare industry. The aviation industry has been incredibly impacted, obviously coming out of COVID, looking at the shortages of talent as older, more experienced pilots start to age out of the aircraft industry. And when I'm speaking of the aviation industry, I'm really not just talking about flying. I'm also talking about the aircraft maintenance aspect of it. A very highly skilled profession, very high demand. And they're projecting shortages, going out to 2030 of, just on the flying side alone, about 15,000 pilots shortage with, just in North America. And the industry itself is expected to have a growth of about almost 15% growth, which is higher than some other industries, again, projected all the way out to 2030. Specifically asking the questions on where are all the Black pilots. Only 2.5% of our commercial pilots are African American, and we need to diversify our talent pool. We need qualified, highly skilled pilots as well as aircraft mechanics. And so our organization is designed, just like Mr. Johnson had said before me, to address some of the inequities. It's like, where are the pilots and what are the barriers preventing these young people from exploring careers in the aviation industry? And what we found is a lot of it is simply, lack of awareness. The interesting thing about the Red Tail Scholarship Foundation, we operate out of Moton Field, right out of Tuskegee, Alabama, and we are seeking to honor the legacy of the famous Tuskegee Airmen who were stood up in World War II, honestly, as a training test to see if African-American pilots at the time and mechanics had the skills required to help fight our nation's wars. And the 99th Pursuit Squadron was the inaugural squadron. These gentlemen and ladies represented the best of our nation, the highest, values in terms of professionalism, patriotism, dedication, and willingness to learn and perfect their craft. So we seek to honor the Tuskegee Airmen legacy by finding students today who embody those same values. So what we're really designed to do is we are a small training provider. If you want to compare us to the major airlines like Delta, American, Alaskan Airlines. They are all doing similar training that what we're trying to do at Tuskegee. The difference between them and us, we operate strictly on the generosity of our donors. So we currently have about 30 students in the pipeline. And these, I call them kids, not to be disrespectful, but they're much younger than me. We have kids fresh out of, about 50% of them are college age kids who are affiliated with Tuskegee University. About the other half of our students are anywhere from age 18 to age 30, who are seeking to have the skills that they need to be successful in the aviation industry. The difference is flying training is incredibly expensive. So we'll bring someone in, they'll start out with almost zero flying background, and we'll get them their private pilot's license, which can cost upward of about $17,500 per student. And these young people can go from knowing nothing, earning their private pilot's license, and then continuing to earn advanced certifications all the way up to certified flight instructor, instrument ratings, and even onto the commercial ratings, which makes them incredibly marketable for the commercial aviation sector, as well as transitioning maybe to become pilots in the military as well. In addition to the flying side, we're also starting with our aircraft maintenance program, our education system. We're working with some community outreach with our Macon County school systems in the vicinity of Tuskegee University, to really partner with some of the high schools and get like the junior and senior age children, high school students, to provide them maintenance training, dual enrollment courses, where they could eventually come and do almost like an apprenticeship and get the hands-on piece with our maintenance team at Red Tail Scholarship, at our program at Moton Field in Tuskegee. So these are all really amazing opportunities for the young people. We are truly giving them the skills that they can be marketable and find successful careers within the aviation community. So a couple of our accomplishments, I mentioned we have about 30 students in the pipeline. And you can see on the screen some of our accomplishments on the left side. So we've flown almost 13,000 flying hours. We've graduated 55 students from our program. So we're super excited about that. We've also had 3,200 supervised maintenance hours, and this is hands-on work with airplanes in accordance with FAA guidelines. And then there's our report card. I won't go through all of them, but how many of our students have passed FAA level check rides to include oral exams, earning their private pilot's license, and then their additional certifications on the flying side. We also are very proud to say we have 5 graduates who are now currently serving in the military. So these kids are come to us with amazing desire to learn, amazing desire to work hard. It is a very challenging program. And our instructors, you know, as kids move up through the program, when they start out with knowing nothing, about a year to 2 years in, we give them the skills where now they can turn around and they can teach those who are newer and coming up through the pipeline. So most of our certified flight instructors have either come up through the program themselves, or will have outside help in terms of, you know, people who are trained either ex-military, people who have been flying on their own as a hobby, or people who have just continued in the civilian program and want to pay it forward to the younger generations. So we operate on our 5 overall principles, and you can see what our mission is. We seek to identify and develop qualified, motivated students who demonstrate the values of our Tuskegee Airmen, as I originally said. Again, focusing on the why, really cannot underscore the need for the talent. Just like my competing industries, right? We're all hurting for that manpower. And the aviation industry is the backbone of our economy. So having the right airmen, giving them the skills that they need to succeed and get jobs, and well-paying jobs at that, is critical. Our goal, you know, to be honest, this is great. My goal is to have 997 graduates through my program. And you can ask, well, that's a very specific number. Well, the Tuskegee Airmen graduated 996 from their program back in World War II. So we figure +1 will make us even better than them. And we want to continue that legacy. But honestly, the sky is the limit for what we're trying to accomplish. The future, where we see the program going, we're really trying to make ourselves marketable for some of these workforce development grants that are out there. to expand the capacity of our program. We are literally operating out of a small, it could bear like a trailer at Moton Field. Our capital campaign is designed to raise funds for a large hangar, which would provide the space for not only work on the airplanes themselves, but obviously academic classrooms where our mentors, we get so many community mentors who want to help talk to these young people. We want to provide the academic space, the mentoring space, more simulators, everything, the equipment, the tools needed for our maintenance training, all of that in this large hangar. Again, the whole point is to increase the capacity and spread this opportunity to more young people out there. So I talked about some of our programs in this. You know, our biggest concern is on the maintenance side because it's hard to get after it. We're trying to model ourselves over the way some of the major airlines are trying to do it. But we're very proud of our report card because honestly, just as an example, American Airlines, they have a program, again, they're using they have about 30 students through a similar pipeline, and they are very much focused on training those students, providing them the training at a reduced cost, and then making them marketable for loans to pay for that training, and they offer them jobs. So they really are designating it as a recruiting platform, whereas our students, it's 100% free of charge. They have to compete, they interview, and we literally can have them through this program, and then the world is their oyster. So that is our goal. So at this point, I would like to turn it over to Ms. Pitts, if you want to add anything, ma'am, about other things we're trying to do with the program.
Sure. Hi all. I'm Jewel Pitts, as Lori said, and I would like to piggyback on what two of our previous presenters mentioned, the importance of tapping into the younger market. You've got to start early to plant that seed, to really get a good start. And along those lines, our organization last summer we started a summer aviation camp. We had 8 students from across the country, a few within the state, who came. We first of all partnered with the Air Force ROTC program and Tuskegee University. We had 8 students participating. It was a very intense 8-week program designed to result in a pilot certificate at the end of that 8 weeks. They stayed on the campus of Tuskegee University, and all of the training, air training, maintenance training, went on at our Red Tail Flight Academy at Moton Field. It was an awesome program, a very productive program, and we are anticipating to do that again this summer. Plans are being developed for that. As I said, it's early to tap into the younger market because by the time you get my age, or a little bit younger, individuals have a different mindset. So the earlier you can tap into that market, I think the better results you'll have in terms of increasing the workload, increasing the workforce. And so that's one of our missions. I would like to toot our horn because we do, speaking of workforce development, we have 2 former students who are now employed with commercial airlines. Those were our first 2 students, and they are both now fully employed with SkyWest Airlines and Commute Air Airlines. And so with that being said, those 2 individuals are living the dream of what the vision of our program is. We want to increase the number of minorities, specifically Black African-American pilots, mechanics, aircraft mechanics, into the workforce. And our program, of course, is as Lori said, is certainly we're working on donations and organizational grants for funding. And so anytime we can receive funding through any additional resources, we are very much appreciated. And that's pretty much it for our program. I'd like to invite all and any of you to come up sometime and take a tour of our flight academy. I think you would be most impressed with the young folks who actually run the day-to-day operations, and you would be truly amazed at the mindset, the professionalism that these young folks have on a day-to-day operations of the organization.
Thank y'all both so much. And I do look forward to coming and taking a tour and seeing what y'all are doing in person. And please, everybody listening, consider doing the same, and let's figure out a way how we can scale this and make this a larger partnership. So thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And would now like to call on Mr. Chris Crumley with IDEA.
Hey, thanks, Nick. As I pull up the charts, I appreciate the opportunity to talk in this webinar and discuss some of the work that we're doing with IDEA. Are the charts visible?
Yes, sir.
All right, very good. So what IDEA is really creating a curriculum called System Engineering Technologies. And so that's what I'm going to go through. And I apologize if I get a little bit too much engineer speak in this, but I've been working in this field for quite some time, retired from NASA Marshall after 27 years, have been in the industry for 35. And what we're finding out is that technology development just takes too long in the US. And one of the things that the US government is doing is turning to model-based engineering, especially model-based system engineering, to accelerate the design, development, test, and evaluation of our really complex structures and systems to put the technology in the hands of our warfighters and up in space quicker than it's been able to do. The challenge is we're just not graduating enough engineers that know how to operate in the model-based system engineering environment, because we're changing the way that we've done system engineering, not in the context of system engineering itself, but in the way that we're using the computing power that is now available to us and replacing the documents with models. And we've had a head start by the Department of Defense out of the Office of Secretary of Defense with Cornerstone. It's another transaction authority. So we have an agreement that helps us create this curriculum that then we can deploy across the state and across the nation. Our partners are Auburn University and Calhoun Community College and Victory Solutions, a small service-disabled veteran-owned company here in Huntsville, Alabama. But we've got a Pathfinder started here at Calhoun. Now, what this does, if you've ever heard of Industry 4.0, it is the new way of advanced manufacturing. It's really intended to bring manufacturing back to the United States, and especially in our military manufacturing capabilities, to be sure that we're able to provide the systems that our warfighters need in the face of our adversaries that may have been really bringing too much of our manufacturing offshore. But what I'm going to specifically talk about is model-based system engineering, because you can talk about model-based engineering in model-based anything, but you've got to start at the beginning if you're going to work through the entire model-based engineering and how we're going to be able to integrate all of our engineering disciplines across the field. So what we've been doing, and I know this is a busy chart, but if you look at the center portion of the helix, this is what we call our system engineering helix. And basically you take the design of what the concept is that the user wants or the warfighter wants or needs, and you start decomposing that into its components. and then you integrate it back up. And what we're doing, and this is a system that we've used for over 50 or 60 years in complex engineering principles, especially in the aerospace and defense industry. We're actually layering on top of that the digital aspects of how do you create the model across the life cycle, because system engineering in its heart is really about, if you wanted to build a bicycle, you want to be sure at the end of this, did I build the bicycle right? And the other question you want to answer is, did I build the right bicycle? And you want to be sure that you're able to verify your requirements all the way across. What we have done is created a system engineering technology degree. It's a 2-year degree in the community college that doesn't create system engineers, but it graduates system engineering technicians that are really familiar with this new language called SysML and the tools by which a system engineer can take these components and provide these requirements to your structural analyst, to your thermal analyst, to your design team, and understand that everybody is on the same page. But because we only have 4 semesters, 5 counting the summer in between, to impart this knowledge, we really believe that internships are critical, and that's what's in the lower right-hand corner. You have to put the students in the ecosystem within the system engineering curriculum or within the system engineering profession to understand, how does this modeling work? How do the system engineers use these new technicians to bring that in? One of the things that we have discovered is with the interns, especially in Huntsville, Alabama, it's difficult to get a security clearance within a 9-week program of an internship. So we've been looking at apprenticeships, and the apprenticeship program is really starting to take off because not only do we want to provide the security clearance that over the 18 months as being an apprentice, you could then be cleared and be able to work directly into the field as soon as you graduate. There's also a huge demand on these graduates. There's job requisitions on Indeed.com just in this town of over 500 model-based system engineers needed right now. ZipRecruiter has estimated that there are 6,000 job recs across Alabama for these model-based system engineers. Now, these technicians are not going to replace every system engineer, but they're going to be to extend the use, and we're going to be able to close the gap a little bit by bringing on these types of modelers. One of the things that we also found out, and that's in this middle portion here, is that we have to educate the industry and the organizations that will use these as well. So we've created a set of professional education opportunities along with our professional instruction that would be handled at the community college. So the way to understand this is, back in the 80s, in the old days when I graduated from engineering school, I was taught drafting with a pencil and French curve and protractors. Well, this computer-aided design was coming out, and I showed up at NASA and none of us knew how to use the machines. So the community college system created CAD draftspeople that were able to use the machines. They were not engineers, but they knew how to work the machine. So they could take the concepts from the designers and put them into the computer to turn out, at that time, 2D drawings. And then what has become now very appropriate is the CAD drawings in 3 dimensions, and the models that you can actually put into the computer are into the manufacturing system and create parts directly from the computer models. So we know that these paraprofessionals can be graduated from the community college. The way that we were able to put this together is to take an existing program at the Alabama Community College system, and we chose the Computer Information Systems program. We took 6 courses out of CIS, and we put 6 new courses, which are designated by these little stars. And we kept the things that were really required for these technicians to understand: Python programming, C++ programming, object-oriented programming, and also some of the network communications and the IT fundamentals. All of those are very important to these modelers because you're working in a very abstract environment. And by overlaying this into the computer information systems degree, it allowed us to move much quicker into the education process, and also bringing in a set of students that are really computer savvy already. The 6 courses, and I won't go through all of them that we put in there, really start out with an introduction to system engineering. What is it? And then we go into the next semester and we go very hard into systems modeling, because this is a very applied program, not theoretical, very applied of how you use the tools. And then I just wanted to talk about our first class. We really were hoping for 10 students. We had 35 students sign up, 40% female. We had 20% were over the age of 30. We're looking for upskilling and reskilling. And one of the things that we were really looking into is how can we offer this opportunity to returning veterans who may want to get into this kind of science and technology and engineering workforce and do it very quickly as they've come back. And with 2-year degree, 2-year training, coupled with workforce training, a work and learn model, you can really get them in quickly. So we're into our second semester in the first cohort. We started another cohort. The demand was so great in the spring. And so we're working through that, and we're looking to expand thanks to a congressional interest item by Congressman Adderhold. We'll be looking to expand that into Wallace State Community College, Bevel State Community College, Snead State Community College, and on beyond in August and in the ensuing years. So what we have offered is really, we started with the associate's degree, and that associate's degree is a dedicated terminal degree. So it's not 2+2 to go into an engineering school, because we're not teaching calculus and physics in this. We're really focusing on the applied computer skills on this. Should a student wish to go on to engineering school, we think it'll be a 2+3, spend 3 years into a 4-year university, and then pick up on the calculus and the physics to move into an engineering degree. But the workforce training should really help on the student being able to get into that. Certificate programs, very popular right now with our practicing engineers that would like to have a certificate on how that can you actually start bringing in this kind of model-based engineering, model-based system engineering into their own practice, because frankly, more of the government requests for proposals are coming out and mandating model-based system engineers. So the companies are scrambling to make sure their people are trained in order to affect that proposal. Professional education goes along with the certificate, whether or not you want to train the managers and the folks that are making the financial decisions in the company. And then in the university level, we're actually moving upstream into the university level to produce electives and certificates, because the 4-year degree just doesn't have enough room to put enough of the dedicated courses to teach model-based system engineering. So an elective or certificate would add on to that. And we're working right now with Tuskegee University and Auburn University to bring that to fruition, as well as moving upstream into the high schools. Just like Ms. Pitt said, you've got to start attracting the attention of these students early to show them these opportunities. So I know that was very quick and I talked very fast, but this is talking about how can we bring in this new skill set, new interns, new apprentices, and graduates, and put them into our system, because Alabama, for at least the last decade, has had manufacturing as one of our top professions in the state. And advanced manufacturing has been moving quicker in Alabama than most of our other sister states. And we have the opportunity to really move advanced manufacturing in to this new Industry 4.0 by pulling in this skill set and moving it across the state. And we hope to win a large proposal with the federal government that would allow us to extend this opportunity from Mobile to Huntsville. And by the way, any ACCS school has the ability to bring this curriculum on right away, and I can help you bring on adjunct professors. So that's where we are, Nick. Again, I appreciate it, and I hope that was a good description of where we're trying to get.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate all you're doing to help scale Industry 4.0 in Alabama, and you're bringing a lot more people into high wage, in demand jobs, and look forward to building a partnership. Now I want to ask Dr. Barbara Cooper to come on, and she will close us out with our last presentation of the day on the campaign for grade level reading. So last but certainly not least, Secretary Cooper.
Great. Thank you so much, Nick, for this opportunity to speak with this group this morning about one of Governor Ivey's Strong Start, Strong Finish initiatives that supports workforce development efforts. Parents cannot work if they do not have high quality early educational opportunities for their children. Ultimately, we are preparing today's children for tomorrow's workforce, and everything we've heard this morning is contingent upon us having this high quality workforce. Like young children, I like to begin every question and conversation with the infamous why. All great organizations do two things well. They understand their why, and they have the right people on the bus to do the work, as Jim Collins would say. The Alabama Department of Early Childhood Education does this work because we know equitable early learning experiences are invaluable and matter. And basically, in the first 5 years, a child's brain is forming through that 5th year, 95% of that brain. We are committed to supporting and delivering equitable, cohesive systems of high quality care and education, and this requires collective impact strategies. To support high quality early learning experiences, Governor Ivey gathered education leaders and other stakeholders to form the Alabama Campaign for Grade Level Reading in February of 2018 as part of her Strong Start, Strong Finish education initiative. This map before you represents the percentage of Alabama 4th grade students who were not proficient in reading in 2019 by county. On the 2018-19 Scantron test results, the state average is 53% not proficient in reading. The light gray counties are equal to or lower than the state non-proficient rates. The darker shaded counties are higher or have a percentage rate that is worse than the state non-proficient rate. In 2019, Alabama ranks 49th in the country in 4th grade reading proficiency. 1 out of every 2 4th graders failed to read proficiently on the state's reading assessment. 66% of 4th graders living in poverty failed to reach proficiency on the state's reading assessment. Hence our need for the campaign for grade level reading. So to address this challenge, children's policy councils are working to strategically address literacy with an intentional focus at the local level. We all know that no one family, no one school, and no one teacher or any one organization can effectively address literacy alone. The Campaign for Grade Level Reading committees were conveniently convened by our governor to make recommendations to improve literacy for every student by the 4th grade. The Committee for Campaign for Grade Level Reading broke up into several small groups, and the following Alabama Campaign for Grade Level Reading framework before you was born out of this work. The committee basically recommended to Governor Ivey the Measure of Success framework, which consists of these 5 key areas before you. Focusing on high quality birth to age 8 systems, focusing on family engagement, we recognize the parents are their child's first teacher. Health and well-being, children must be healthy, well-fed in order to thrive. Learning outside of the classroom. Again, not everything happens within the 4 walls of a classroom. A lot of learning occurs outside as well. And finally, specific supports for children with special needs, such as special education, children who speak English as a second language, and our struggling readers. After accepting the recommendations of the Campaign for Grade Level Reading, Governor Ivey did a call to action. She encouraged counties to implement local campaigns focused on literacy. 5 counties in that first year actually answered the call through their Children Policy Council, and they have active campaigns in place to address literacy in their counties, as well as implement strategies under the addressing sections of the Campaign for Grade Level Reading framework. These counties have created great momentum, and they're implementing everything from refurbishing old school buses to creating bookmobiles, installing lending library boxes to make books more accessible in communities, improving student attendance through parent project parenting classes, working with organizations to develop language access plans for individuals with limited proficiency, to book giveaways during homecoming parades. They're also implementing Reach Out and Read programs and Destination Imagination through Dolly Parton so that children receive books during their well-child pediatrician visits or receive books monthly, focusing on literacy efforts in the home. The 2021 Campaign for Grade Level Reading pilot counties are Macon, Monroe, Marshall, Jefferson, and Randolph. We've also added, as you can see before you, 10 additional counties, and we will continue implementing, expanding to more counties until all 67 counties are a part of this effort. This is a complete list of the 15 counties that will have local campaigns for grade level reading fully operational by the end of the 21-22 school year. The department is providing intensive support for these Campaign for Grade Level Reading counties. We're not just leaving it to chance what's happening here. To begin their collective Campaign for Grade Level Reading efforts, each of the pilot counties actually completed a data prioritization tool survey, which was developed in conjunction with University of Alabama, Birmingham, to explore each county's specific unmet needs around literacy, barriers to literacy. Data from Kids Count, UAB needs assessments, and other available resources were used. This type of in-depth analysis helped the pilot counties to identify their top 3 areas of need and develop literacy plans around those needs. It was interesting when we first started working with the counties, they were just throwing out things that they thought they needed, but when they dug more in depth with that data, they learned the specific areas in which they needed to focus on. These literacy plans focused on the 3 priority areas of the counties and activities they felt would be the most beneficial in improving literacy proficiency rates within their counties. Each pilot county received $20,000 grants to support the implementation of their literacy improvement efforts from the Framework for Success. Part of the continuous quality improvement efforts entails monitoring the county grade level reading efforts to determine the effectiveness of these strategies. We want to know that what they are doing is moving the needle and supporting them and having more students proficient by the 4th grade. We recognize that every child must be able to read on grade level to fully access an equitable education. Other statewide efforts include the Comprehensive Alabama Literacy Act of 2019, which created policy aimed at improving literacy in our state. This legislation actually provides scientific-based reading literacy instruction for teachers. The Alabama State Department of Education also created a comprehensive literacy framework that, in addition to the science of reading-based instruction supports, we're also focused on higher education coursework so that pre-service teachers walk into those classrooms prepared to teach in classrooms and teach children using scientific-based reading strategies. As you can see, many steps have been implemented to create a comprehensive local statewide focus on literacy that requires collective impact. The Campaign for Grade Level Reading is just one of these efforts aimed at collectively engaging entire counties around addressing literacy. Again, everyone is needed, all hands on deck, all sleeves rolled up to tackle this challenge, to successfully ensure that children are reading on grade level by the 4th grade. We're also doing many partnerships, as you can see indicated in some of these pictures. We're working with other agencies that address children and family issues as well. These type of collective efforts we know have the potential to transform entire communities, one child, one family at a time. The programs Governor Ivey and other state leaders have initiated and invested in will begin to put our children, our youngest citizens, on the right track to success. It will take work, hard conversations, and it will take all of us being intentional about addressing literacy in the early years. We all know that if we tackle developmental learning challenges at the very earliest stages possible, we have a much greater likelihood of employing strategies that will put children on a trajectory for lifelong success. Focusing on our youngest learners today is the right work to do, and these investments will ensure that we have a high-performing workforce and a thriving economy in the future. I've enjoyed hearing all of the various programs that are currently in place in our state, and I sincerely believe that if we focus on our youngest learners, we're going to have the right adults and young people to funnel into these many efforts. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you for your leadership and for connecting all the dots for us and bringing together the inside the classroom, outside the classroom, and all the things we got to do for our earliest learners. And we are already beginning to make a lot of progress because of your work and partnership. So thanks to all of our presenters today. We're going to dispense today with the labor market update. Unemployment rate stayed the same. Labor force participation rate ticked down a little bit, so we can say we went over the cliff notes. We will see you next time. Our next webinar is going to be on April the 18th, same time, 9 a.m. See you then.